So now on to exponential equations common base level 3. Same basic idea, it's just that the exponents are a little bit more complicated, but rewriting it with the same base is going to be the same process. So we have 1 over 125 and 1/5. So let's take a look at the 1/5. That tells me that we want a common base of 5. So actually, I should have written 1/5 first. 1/5 is equal to 5 to the power of what? Well, technically, 5 is 5 divided by 1. So if I want to flip that fraction, I will set it as an exponent of -1. So 5 to the power of -1 is 1/5. Then we have to think about what 125 is. So 125 is 5 to the power of question mark. And so with your calculator, you can figure out that it is 5 to the power of 3. I should have not written the question mark if I already knew that. Okay, so 125 is 5 to the power of 3. So the fraction 1 over 125 is 5 to the power of -3. So remember that we're just trying to flip that 125 over 1. So we are going to change that 3 to a -3. So now we have our two fractions. Are there any questions up till here? Let's keep going. So let's rewrite 1 over 125 as 5 to the power of -3. Rewrite 1/5 as 5 to the power of -1. And then we're going to multiply our exponents, just like the same steps that we have always done. So -3 multiplied by -4x minus 10. And then for this exponent, it's -1 times -2x squared minus 16. Okay, so then let's actually multiply them out. So -3 times -4x, that gives us positive 12x, I say as I write something else. So positive 12x, and then -3 times -10 is plus 30. And then for these, -1 times -2x squared, so it's just positive 2x squared. -1 times -16 plus 16. Okay, and so now that we have our common base, that common base being 5, now that they share the common base, we can just focus on our exponents. So I'm going to highlight these exponents, and we're just going to focus on those, set those equal to each other. So from here, we just need to solve for x. Notice that you're going to get a quadratic equation, which is totally okay because you can just do the x factor and then solve for the x. But before we do that, we must bring everything to one side. So I'm just going to subtract the 12x. I guess I'll just write it over here. Those will cancel out. We get 30 is equal to 2x squared minus 12x plus 16. Notice I just put the minus 12x in the middle just because that's standard form. And then let's bring also that 30 to the right side. So it's 0 is equal to 2x squared minus 12x and then minus 14. And then notice that there's a 2 in front of our x squared. Let's actually divide that out so it makes it a little bit easier. Everything's divisible by 2 anyways, so it'll make things easier. I'm going to write that answer up over here. So once you divide 0 by 2, you're still going to get 0. And then 2x squared divided by 2 is just x squared. Negative 12x divided by 2 is minus 6x. And negative 14 divided by 2 is minus 7. So now we have this quadratic that I have written all the way on the top. And that quadratic is the one we want to solve. So we have x squared minus 6x minus 7. And so I know you guys said you like doing the x factor method, so let's do it that way. We're going to put the negative 7 up top and the negative 6 on the bottom. You want two numbers that add to negative, wait, sorry, I don't know why I wrote that. You want two numbers that multiply to -7 and add to -6. So those two numbers would be what? You guys can tell me. -7 and 1. Good. So you can just double check. -7 times 1 will give you -7. Good. -7 plus 1 will give you -6. Good. So I'm going to rewrite this standard form into factored form as x minus 7 and x plus 1. Where did I get the 7 and the 1? -7 plus 1. That's where they came from. And so then you set each factor equal to 0. Then you can solve for x. So x minus 7 and the plus 7, they cancel out. You get x equals 7. And then for the x plus 1, minus 1, those cancel out. You get x equals -1. So you have two answers, 7 and -1. So just in case you didn't know, although I think you probably did know, but I just want to point it out, that your answers, 7 and -1, they're literally opposite the numbers that you put here. So if you don't want to show all of this in your work and you just want to cut to the chase and write your answers, that's totally okay. Just remember your answers, the 7 and the -1, are opposites of what was here. Okay, so any questions up till here before I go ahead and enter it into Delta Math? So let's go ahead and enter 7 and -1 into our Delta Math answer. So remember, make two boxes, 7, -1. And we're good. Let's do two more examples from this category. Because the process is still the same. The only different part is you just have to do the X factor method at the end. But I think you guys are comfortable with the X factor method, or at least that seems to be my impression. Okay, so let's take a look at our bases for this problem. We have a base of 5 and 25. Luckily, we know that 25 is equal to 5 squared. So let's rewrite. This one, I'm not changing it because it already has a base of 5. This one, we can rewrite it as 5 squared. Okay, and then from here, let's multiply out the exponent on the right side. The left side just remains unchanged because it already had the base of 5. But this one, this is 2 times 12x minus 21. So this one, once again, is not changed. And then on this side, we're going to multiply it out. So 5 to the power of 2 times 12x is 24x. 2 times -21 is minus 42. So now that they both have the same base, we can focus in on just the exponents. So the 3x squared plus 3 and the 24x minus 42. Let's set those equal to each other. Then we're going to bring everything to one side. So I'm going to minus the 24x minus 24x. Okay, so 3x squared minus 24x plus 3. Sorry, I know I kind of shifted it, but I didn't want to write over the submit answer button. And that is equal to -42. Then remember, we also want to bring over that 42. So we get 3x squared minus 24x plus 45 equals 0. And then notice this 3, we don't like the 3 here, so we are going to divide everything by 3. And I think Delta Math has this category set up such that anytime you have a coefficient in front of your x squared, you should divide by it because it will still give you whole numbers. Like 24 is divisible by 3 and 45 is divisible by 3 as well. So let's divide everything by 3. Divide it by 3. Divide it by 3. And this will give us 3x squared divided by 3 gives you just x squared. Negative 24x divided by 3 will give you minus 8x. 45 divided by 3 will give you 15. And 0 divided by 3 will just give you 0. So let's draw the x factor thing here. You want them to multiply to 15. And you want them to add to -8. And I'm going to pause the video here so you guys get a chance to make your guesses. Cool, so we have -5 and -3. So I could totally show all that work again to say that, to say what the answers are, but do you remember that shortcut? What do we do with our two numbers here? -5 and -3, they pretty much tell us our answers, so what are our answers? Exactly that, so our answers will be 5 and 3, literally just the opposites of these highlighted green numbers. So if you have a -5, one of your answers will be +5. Since we have a -3, one of our answers will be a +3. Are there any questions up until this point before I go ahead and type it in? Or anybody need to write any of that? I'm going to pause the video. Let's go ahead and enter in x equals 5 and 3. Remember to make a second box. And it doesn't matter if you put your 3 first and then the 5, or the 5 first and then the 3. It will be fine either way. It'll still give you the points. Let's do one more example. So remember, the changing base part is the same. The only extra difference in this category is just the x factor part. So we have a 1/9 and we have a 1/3. So remember that 1/3 is 3 to the power of -1. So remember, when you have that negative, it makes it a fraction with a 1 on top. Because technically 3 is 3 divided by 1. So to flip it, you just put it to the power of -1. Then it becomes 1/3. And then also 9 is 3 squared, right? So if you want 1/9, then that's going to be 3 to the power of -2. So that negative turns it into the fraction, because 9 is technically 9/1. So to flip that around, you just make it a negative exponent. So with that, let's change all of these to have their exponential form. So this is 3 to the power of -2 to the power of -2x minus 42. This is 3 to the power of -1 to the power of -2x squared minus 14. And so let us rewrite this such that we actually multiply out our exponents. Okay, and so let's distribute. So -2 times -2x is positive 4x. -2 times -42 is positive 84, so plus 84. And then on this side, -1 times -2x squared is 2x squared, positive. And then -1 times -14 is now plus 14. I'm going to pause here to see if you guys have any questions. All right, so remember, now that we have our same base, we can take just the exponents and set those equal to each other. So we have our exponents here and here. So I have 4x plus 84 is equal to 2x squared plus 14. And then let's bring everything to one side. So I'm just going to subtract our 4x, subtract 4x. Those cancel out. We get 84 is equal to 2x squared minus 4x plus 14. And then let's subtract our 84 as well. We want it to equal to 0. So I'm just going to try to write this more bold so that you can see it. Okay. Don't have much space on the bottom, but that's okay. Those cancel out. We get 0 is equal to 2x squared minus 4x and then minus 70. And notice everything is divisible by 2. 2 is a number in front of our x squared, so 2 is the coefficient of x squared. I'm just going to rewrite everything so that I can actually show my work better. So we don't want this 2, this coefficient, so we're going to divide everything by 2. So 0 divided by 2 is still 0, and then 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. Minus 4x divided by 2 is minus 2x, and minus 70 divided by 2 is minus 35. So here is the quadratic that we have to solve. Remember to put negative 35 up top. This is the number you want your numbers to multiply to. Don't know why it took me so long to say that. And then you put the negative 2 on the bottom. You want your two numbers to add to negative 2. So I'm going to pause the video here, give you guys a chance to think, what two numbers should I put on the left and right? So let me write that down. Negative 7 and 5. So let's think about it just to be sure. Negative 7 times positive 5 will give you negative 35. That works. Negative 7 plus 5 will give you negative 2. That also works. So these are the correct numbers. So now that we know what numbers goes on the left and right, what are our answers? Remember that shortcut. What do we do with this number and this number to get our x values? What are our x values? So you would get 7 and negative 5. And how do we get that? It's literally just the opposite. So negative 7 gives us positive 7 as one of our answers. Positive 5 gives us negative 5 as our other answer. So before I go ahead and enter this into Delta Math, does anybody need time to write? I'm going to pause the video to give you guys a chance. Let's go ahead and enter 7 and negative 5 into Delta Math. Remember to make a second box and then type in your answers. And let's see. Cool. Okay, so we got three examples from this category. So that should be enough, hopefully. And if not, remember there's always the show example button and the watch help video button. And we still have plenty of time for you to ask for help in the breakout rooms. So I'm going to end the recording here.